Hello, everyone, and welcome to Six Figure Souls Doing Good and Making Money, the weekly podcast highlighting entrepreneurs who have crushed the six-figure ceiling while remaining fully aligned with their soul's purpose. I am your host, Camille Miller, pioneer for the Soul Professional Movement and founder of the Natural Life Business Partnership. Today, I am with Jen Coken, executive leadership coach and imposter syndrome expert. Thank you, Jen, for being with us today. Excited to talk to you and talk about your journey through entrepreneurship.
I'm excited to be here too, especially because I love the fact that you say, like, you can still do good and make money, because I think we so many people who are on this journey think money's bad, or you're, well, if you really believed in what you were doing, you would give it away for free. No, we frickin' wouldn't. Like, shut up.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming this executive leadership coach, or where you are today, because we know that everyone doesn't just blossom overnight and is a huge success. So that's the kind of journey we want to talk. What did you do, like, way back, say 10 years ago? Like, where did you start off in your professional
I was
journey?
in politics for 30 years. I was in politics for 30 years, got people elected from every level, ran for office myself, passed laws, helped pass legislation, helped in the environment, good government, ending hunger and homelessness. And for 15 of those years, I was a coach for one of the top personal growth and development companies called Landmark Worldwide, that does courses like the Landmark Forum. And so I've been coaching people over 25 years because I used to coach people 30 hours a week with them, right?
Right.
2016, my first book came out.
Okay.
And at the time, I was working for a solar company, and my job was to create a lobbying arm, basically to lobby municipalities to hire us as their solar installer, which we did very successfully. And I walked in one morning and my boss looked at me, asked to meet with me, looked at me and pushed a folder across the table at me and got this tear in his eye and said, "Your services are no longer needed." And I was like, "Get the F out." And he laughed and I laughed. He was like, "No, we're reorganizing the company. It has nothing to do with performance. We're just going a different direction." So I stayed and laid off half my staff. And the next day my book came out. Now, right. So
wow.
Making the big bucks, I was able to hire a publicist. Being laid off, publicists go. Now I had to figure out how to get my book out there and how to market it. And I knew nothing. So I did everything I knew to do. I got coaches, I talked to people, and they became a #1 Amazon bestseller. The key here, though, Camille, that was such a turning point for me, is that the book is a memoir. It's about my mom dying of ovarian cancer, and it's inspirational. But I was giving a lot of talks for women about ovarian cancer and holding space for grief.
Yeah.
Like energetically was a lot. And so by October, I had done TV, I had done radio, etc. I was like, I need to do something else. So I went back to coaching full time, because it's what I've always loved to do, was to empower people, to have them truly feel at home with themselves, in their own skin, expressing themselves authentically, feeling like they can just be genuine and not have to please people and not have to, try to be the person that everybody wants us to be. So I went off on that coaching journey, and for 3 years, I threw spaghetti at the wall. Like, I don't know, bro marketing, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to have a high ticket offer, and talked with all these, let's be honest, guys out there who were trying to give us the way to do it, the way to coach. And I never felt at home.
Mm-hmm.
Never. And so fast forward 2019, I got a big corporate client. Okay, now I was finally making 6 figures. So now you're talking about 3 years later. Okay. Because of this big corporate client. Well, Then COVID hit. Corporate client went away. I was no longer traveling, and I had to figure out what to do. I had to figure out who I was. And truth be told, even though the corporate client was great from a monetary standpoint, it was soul sucking. Go.
Let's talk about that before we continue your story, because I think that's so important, right? So many times we follow the money, and especially in the beginning of our businesses, right? Because we got to pay our bills.
Yep.
Right. And I feel like the second time that you told me that something happened, I was like, here's the universe just pushing her to her purpose. Because sometimes I think the universe gives us a little nudge by taking something away. I always say they slam that door shut to make sure, like they give you a couple pushes, like they open windows and stuff for you. And when you're not going out,
yeah,
they're slamming that door shut so you can't go backwards.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And like on one hand, the work I was doing was really important. It was with emerging leaders, BIPOC leaders. I was the only white trainer. It was really incredible. But I'll tell you something, when I wasn't on the road or coaching them, I was under the covers and miserable. It was like I got sucked into a crappy corporate culture without realizing it. And you're right, I was chasing the money at the time, right?
Right.
And it's hard, like you said, because you need to pay the bills.
Absolutely.
You see this as an opportunity, but it also made me not as aware. I wasn't listening to my intuition. I wasn't asking the right questions. So fast forward, it's like, nope, that door shut with COVID. And I said, okay, well, now what? And I had hired, there's a woman that heard me speak at the end of 2019. And she walked up to me. She's actually a PR strategist. And she's like, I have never heard somebody give a talk the way that you did. You are brilliant. Like, how were you getting yourself out there? And I kind of looked at her and went, I don't know. I don't, you know, because that corporate client was only supposed to be 20 hours a week, but truth be told, it was taking everything.
Stuck to, yeah.
And I didn't have the time to promote myself or to sit still and listen, like, what's next? What's the right thing? So she kind of, with me, took me under her wing. And the thing I distinguished was that all of 2019, what I was dealing with was imposter syndrome. I could never put a name to it. So I finally discovered it for myself. And I realized all these experiences I was having of not trusting myself, doubting myself, etc. I was being triggered. It was an old pattern that was being triggered on purpose, because the universe, like you said, is always going to put things in front of us to help us grow. And eventually I distinguished and discovered that it all went back to one particular moment when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
Yes. And so
I have to ask one question. Did that just come to you, or did you do something? Like, were you doing inner energy work? Like, how did that all of a sudden just be like six years old is a lot way back.
Way back. But see, my philosophy and the way I coach people is the behaviors and habits you have today, the disempowering ways of being, the procrastination, the actions you're not taking, all go back to 3 or 5, I would call them case issues, like certain moments in our childhood that really formed us.
Great.
And so this one happened to be, I was 6 years old and I liked this boy, Tommy, and so did my best friend. And at 6, we were quite precocious and we decided, how are we going to figure out who he likes? Well, we're going to chase him around the schoolyard and see who he kisses. And she puckered up and he kissed her, and I puckered up and he went, ew. Heartbroken, 6 years old. But in that moment, I was so embarrassed. All the other kids were watching. So I was mortified, wanted to drop through the ground. And I said to myself, I'm not only never putting myself out there anymore, I'm just going to succeed behind the scenes. And if I looked back at my career, the logic was inescapable. I was always getting other people elected. I was always testing other people's issues. I was always creating nonprofits for other people. The moment I attempted to do something for me, I would cave. Something would happen and I would lose confidence and I would give up.
Wow.
So the moment of distinguishing that for me was huge. And it also led me to seeing how imposter syndrome impacts women, especially because there's so few leading at the top. And why I've now developed a system called Make It Your Superpower, because I don't think it's bad. If I look back, I was quite successful out of that one 6-year-old decision. I just don't want that 6-year-old driving my life.
Absolutely.
You know, I want the grown-ass woman behind the driver's seat.
Yeah.
So I began working with my friend Whitney and literally doubled down on imposter syndrome. So by the end of 2020, I had doubled my business.
Incredible. Lots of one-on-ones, I'm assuming, right?
So many one-on-ones.
Yeah.
And exhausted. And the key here was, you know, it's also COVID. It's also George Floyd. I was going live every morning to give my tribe inspiration. I was doing a vlogcast on racism in the arts, racism in drug policy, anything I could do to contribute, and doing all these one-on-one coaching sessions. And I distinctly remember sitting on my balcony in July and just going, I'm exhausted. I need a break. And no kidding, 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
I'm fine now. I'm totally healthy
Good.
now. But talk about the universe hitting you upside the head with a 2x4.
Yeah. And saying you need to rest now.
You need to rest now. And I had to reimagine my whole business, because as a coach, I'm like, okay, chemo, there's a thing called chemo brain. How's that going to impact my ability to coach people one-on-one? I had a very small circle of people that I told. So my clients didn't know. I had to reimagine my business and created a group program. And I also flipped my work day so that I didn't see anybody, but I saw people between 1 and 5 p.m.
Okay.
Because I didn't know, did I need sleep? Did I need to cry in a
What
corner?
that day was like,
Yeah. What treatments did I have? I had 2 surgeries. I had 21 rounds of radiation or chemo.
wow.
And throughout, I made most of that money while I was sick.
That's incredible.
I say, because I was taking care of me.
I was just going to comment on that, that I've heard this story so many times that people realize, and it actually happened to me too, when I stepped back is when I started to just flourish like crazy.
Yeah, because I think there's something in there about sacrifice. Like, we're working so hard, we have to feel like we're sacrificing something, and we don't have to work that hard. Like, hard work and struggle doesn't have to equal success. And when we take.
So I want to talk about, so many times I talk to so many people that have that same story of that aha, or that they paused in life, something happened, they got sick, there was a car accident, that they had no choice. And it happened to me in COVID. And it opened my eyes, because I had no choice but to, and I ended up with long COVID. So it lasted a long, long time. I was sick, very sick for a month, but then it lasted about 4 or 5 months afterwards, where I just couldn't get at it. Like my mornings, I didn't know what my mornings were going to be like. So I started to make all of my video calls later. I have non-video days. And I just ended up flourishing, because you do what you're focused on, what's important. You do what you love and what you need to do, and none of the extra. And I think it also brings us up a level, because we're taking care of ourselves, but we're also in flow.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense, because I think so often as people who are doing good in the world.
Yeah.
I think I said this in the beginning, like, I think there's a myth that you have to sacrifice to do good, that you have to like, oh, I'm gonna, and we don't have to. And when we're taking care of ourselves and feeding our own spirit, whether that's reading in the morning, meditating in the morning, exercising, doing nothing, staring out the window, playing with your pets, playing with your kids, you're feeding your own soul, which raises your vibration, which allows you to attract more of the same to you. Right?
Absolutely.
But why do we have to learn about it the hard way? Damn it.
Right. I know. That's the whole thing about the soul professional movement. Like, it's not what we've been told. We're debunking that. There's a new way of doing it. And we build wealth so we can impact others. Right. So many people feel that building wealth and being financially stable and even wealthy is wrong, or you're not doing good, you're not serving others. And that is so untrue. Because when you can build your own wealth, and even through this company, we have an initiative, right? We give back because we can, and we can control what we can help. We can help the things that we love to do. For us, we call it the Creative Kids Project, because I want to help other creative kids that were told that they had to do a certain track in life, right? And here we all are building these businesses because we can, but we didn't always know that we could. In the exact way that, makes our heart sing.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. I had a thought and then I lost it. So there you go.
Well, Jen, tell me one thing that, if you could name one thing that really pushed your level lever forward.
Besides that moment,
Yeah.
I think I feel like there's always these quantum hops before you have a quantum leap. So realizing that I don't always trust myself and my intuition. And so at times I'm listening to too many voices. Actually,
I love that.
gets me into trouble. So back in, I think it was March, I had a chuck it moment. I call it, am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Yep.
Fuck it and chuck it moment. I was like, fuck it all, chuck it all. I don't care. I had just moved to my new place. I really knew very little people. I still don't. I haven't even been there. What's today? 20, whatever date it is. Been there 3 months. Exactly.
Okay.
And I wanted to go for a walk. And I was like, I don't know where to go. Rah, rah. I can't just walk out my door and go be with the birds and the trees and the forest the way I used to in my old place. I don't know what to do. And I thought, fine, go walk through this parking lot to get to a path. But if I go right, if I keep going, I'll fall into the Chesapeake Bay, and that's just fine. Because right now, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to chuck it all, fly over Bermuda, and I hope I get lost.
Oh my gosh.
And I took a walk and I righted myself. But what I realized was I was listening to too many other people.
Yeah.
And not taking the time to discern what works for me. And I also think in this business, the business of soul, of soul expression, just self-expression, but soul expressing our purpose for what we're here for. We have maybe in the beginning, and I still have to fine tune this. I'm sure you do too. I'm tuning into the frequency and the vibration of what we want and what our soul is guiding us to do, and dampening the noise around us. And it's great to get business advice. And okay, I'm now, for me, I'm now looking at retreats for next year. Okay, who's someone that's really good at designing those? So let me talk to that person, get some input. But I have to remind myself what they're saying isn't gospel, because I'm such a people pleaser. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Rather than going information. Now let me sit with it and see what's going to work in my business and the way that I want to operate.
Yeah, I have a good retreat person if you need it. But I think it's also really important at every single stage you are in your business that you're surrounding yourself with people that are supporting you, because as an entrepreneur, if you're not surrounded by entrepreneurs at all, right, your friends don't want you to change, right? I think it's important to say that your circles of people you hang out with change. I think personally and professionally, both. They have to change for you to uplift, because you always want people higher than you, and you want mentors and people to look up to and say, like, that's what I want. But when you're just starting out, if you're not hanging around other entrepreneurs, they're just kind of sucking you in. Right.
Yeah. And I think that entrepreneurial mindset, it's interesting for me because having been in politics, I was never in a job more than the longest, I think, for 6 years, because there was an end to a campaign. That's the point, people. And I remember going into interview for a job and they're like, you just haven't been at your jobs long enough. And I said, well, there's an election day. Someone gets elected and then it's on to the next thing. So people didn't get it, but it fed that part of me of being a manifester. And wanting to create and wanting to pull things together. And as an entrepreneur, I have to watch it, because if I get bored with what I'm currently doing, if I'm not fine tuning, honing, looking at things, I'll just start new projects and my team goes crazy. Yeah. They're like, focus, squirrel, focus. That's it. Like, stop it, squirrel, focus, and they always have a bet, because we meet quarterly and monthly, or like the end of the year going into the next year. And I pledge, we're not going to do anything new. And last year someone's like, we'll see how long that lasts. We'll see. Yeah,
I think 1 or 2 things a year and they can be big, but that's it. Like, there's nothing more. Like, those are the things we're doing, and that's it. I believe in the slow crawl.
And small is beautiful, like testing things, trying them out. I mean, I've had this group program now for almost 2 years, and I've been testing and massaging and figuring it out and tweaking, and understand too that as we grow, our programs grow, as we get better at discerning who we are, so do we get better at discerning who we want to empower, who we want to lift up.
And I think it's important to also shed what no longer serves us.
Yes.
Because
people and situations.
Yep. Because I just did the same thing. I resurrected an old membership level And it took me a long time and money to resurrect the whole thing again. And I was in it for like 4 months and I was like, this doesn't feel right. I should not have done this. And it took me another 2 months to get rid of it.
Yep.
But now, and the day, like literally the day I made the decision and took it down from the website and notified everyone at that level that I was doing it, they could stay there, but we were no longer selling it. I just felt like renewed, like, oh my gosh. It's like my whole body knew that I shouldn't have gone in that direction.
It's interesting because this group program originally was 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always something off for me. And then I said, you know what? I don't want it to be 4 months. It doesn't bring me joy. It doesn't light me up. I'm going to make it 3 months. I'm going to make it a 90-day sprint to go from vision to action and producing results. Okay. And then now I'm all about it.
Now it's it. Yeah. I think that's an important lesson for our listeners, that it's okay to change your mind. You know, then that's not being a squirrely mind is way different than tweaking things to make, like, you didn't drop the whole program.
No,
you just made it so it fit you, your lifestyle, what you wanted, so it felt good and resonated with you.
exactly. And there was something too that I wanted to go back to, which we were talking about earlier, which is this whole idea of like somehow money's bad, you know, when it comes to making money's bad, when it comes to doing good. I had to deal with my own money observations. You know, I mean, I grew up straight up middle class and didn't want for anything, but you know, some months were tighter than others. We got closed at a certain time of the year. I began to pay my own way when I was about 13 and got my own job. Not a problem with any of that, like straight up middle class. Then I realized, as I was wanting to manifest $1 million, as I was wanting to create a foundation, I did some work in a workbook that somebody recommended, and I realized I had a superstition that people who were wealthy or had a lot of money were grifters. Like somehow they had come by it really in a not good way. So I never wanted to be thought of as a grifter. I was like, well, that's stupid, because if you have a foundation, the way that I'm envisioning it, for scholarships for kids like me who came from single parent homes with moms that work, you know, I can do a lot of good for those kids who want to go to college or who want to take advantage of programs. You know,
can help a lot of people.
Same with your foundation too.
We impact the world when we build wealth and use it to help others. I think the world is just redefined a little bit, and it's not so much about stuff, at least the people I'm hanging with.
Me too.
It's not about stuff. I build wealth so I can help more people.
Yeah, it's helping more people. And for me too, it's experiences. Like, okay, how can my whole family go on a vacation together? How can I go spend time with friends? You know, how can I, maybe it's not the foundation that I've set up or going to be setting up. Maybe it's a donation I make to somebody that I think will make a difference right then. Maybe it is seeing somebody, because, you know, having come from the background I did of working on ending homelessness and hunger, it was always advised, don't give people who are asking you for money, because usually they're going to use it for drugs or alcohol. So I had kind of a blanket, but you know what? From time to time, I slip people 20s, because if I don't usually carry cash, but I'm like, you know what? It will always come back to me tenfold. Whatever I put out will always come back to me.
I agree with that. I feel like you rise up as a person when you give. I think that's part of mentorship for me too. And that's why I like helping people, because I feel like you can't be better until you help others be better. Like you help others first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful soul.
I think too, this just came to me, which is we also have to deal with this mindset that things are scarce, that as people who do good in the world, somehow there's not enough clients or there's not enough buyers or things like that. So if I once had a coach tell me, well, if you're not closing 80% of the calls you get on, then your message is wrong and you need to work on your close. And I'm like, really? No, I don't agree. I think like 25% for me, like 1 out of 4. Because those other people need to think about it, and I'm okay with that. I'm not a fit, and I'm okay with that. They don't resonate with me, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And just continuing to trust that the right people, that we're attracting the right people. When we get in that scarcity mindset, it's like, oh my God, now we're desperate to get people, and we'll compromise on our values. We'll compromise on our offerings.
Yep. I love that. Yeah, we see the same thing with our membership, which is my primary business. Is people come when they're ready, And sometimes we have a long lead time, and that's okay, because they have to get to know us, they have to trust us, they have to be in that space of their business, the timing works for them. And a lot of times they're in other programs or other things, or with coaches. Like, there's so many things that we've never done a hard sell. Like, I may be really excited about people and think that they're ready, but me thinking they're ready and them being ready, it's a total different thing, right? But I think that's also a beautiful thing when you're not working from a place of scarcity. There's enough business for everyone when you have that abundance mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think when you talk people into buying whatever you're selling, anybody, right, it doesn't feel good on either side, and they're always questioning it as well.
Yeah, they feel manipulated.
Yeah, and God forbid it's not good. It's not a good fit for them. Your program could be awesome, but it might not be a good fit for where they are or who they are, and then that doesn't feel good for either one of you. It's a lot more work too.
It's a lot more work. I was talking with a client yesterday who's in my group program, and we do a weekly accountability call. I was like, what do you need? She goes, well, just had this thought as I was walking the dogs. What if nobody buys another program for me? I said, how long have you had your company? She's had her company since 94. So that's what, 2004, 2014.
12 years?
No, 20.
Oh, 94.
28 years.
Oh my gosh.
Years.
Okay.
And she's never not had that thought. And she's had her company for 28 years. And she's always had that thought. I'm like, what? That's so great. Just notice the thought and burst the thought bubble. Because it's just a thought. That's all that's happening. But everybody has those thoughts. So whether someone's first starting out or been around 28 years, we all have those thoughts. The minute we make a sale, we're like, crap, is another one going to come through? Is the right person going to come through? I'm going to launch a new program. Is anybody going to buy? We all have those thoughts. And it's having a vision big enough and the crap between your ears that will allow you to rise above that chatter, right?
Yeah.
Rise above the noise.
Absolutely. Jen, what do you think's in the future for you?
Well, I'm making a movie.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a big future.
That's a big future. So my first book, we have a couple of Hollywood screenwriters that are in the midst of writing a movie excerpted from the book to give me a bigger platform around this world of ovarian cancer and women's gynecological health and saving women's lives. Because I know of 3 women that read my book and were diagnosed stage 1. So this is like my passion project. So
wow.
Yeah. So raising money right now to get the book from book to script to sale. I think our goal is 45. We've raised about 37 at this point, and the writers are already writing it. I should be at a table read in July of 2023. Really super exciting. And once we sell it, all goes well, we'll start filming in the 3rd quarter of 2023.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh no, I'll be at the table read next month, July of this year. This July in LA. And then we'll start filming Q3 of 2023 when all goes as it should. And that is just huge. And I've written an original song for it too. I mean, I haven't done a lot of writing recently. And so this move, being near the water, has really juiced me up creatively because I'm in the flow and near the water. And that's always been like a big thing for me.
Gosh.
So that's one piece. And then the other piece is in 2023, I also plan to start hosting in-person retreats because I love being in person with people, in person with people. Duh, with dogs.
We've missed that.
We've so missed that.
And
and I'll be doing an Awaken Your Greatness retreat and Unleash Your Greatness retreat, and we'll see what else comes along. But those are the most exciting things that are on the table right now.
That's a lot of exciting things. And I just found out you're a songwriter. That's a lot of exciting things.
Yes. My whole creative spirit has been
ignited. Yeah. Jen, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way to find out more about you?
Go to my website, jencoken.com, JENCOKEN.com. You can get on my mailing list. There's a great ebook on there that I really encourage everybody to get called Cracking the Power Code. And it's my formula for dealing with the madness between your ears. And then you're on my list. You don't have to stay on the list, but at least, I won't take it personally, I swear. I may stalk you, but not really. So once you get the ebook, stick around. I send an email about once a week to help people really thrive.
That is fantastic. Well, Jen, thank you so much for sharing your story and being with us today. I so much appreciate your time and I love your story. And I can't wait to see your movie.
You
Oh my
too.
gosh.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just been a real pleasure to be here and really, really inspiring.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jen. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. For more information about the Soul Professional Movement, you can go to soulprofessional.com. This podcast is sponsored by the Natural Life Business Partnership, a global professional organization and business incubator for the soul-aligned professional. If you live in a higher vibration, have an alternative approach to business, and want to help repair the world, join us at our next meet and greet, and you can find that at soulprofessional.com. So long, everyone. We'll see you at our next interview.